Hi BookTube, it's Missy, and today I'm here to share with you guys my very long, it took me forever. This is going to be a long video, so get a snack, just to warn you. This is the Around the Year in 52 Books challenge that is on Goodreads. I've participated in it for the last 2 years, so 2016, 2017. I've bombed both of them. I did terrible because I've chosen the books a year in advance, and then by the time I was reading, I just wasn't in the mood to read those books anymore. So this time around, it is very, very tentative. I have my recommendations of all the books that I've already read. If you guys want to participate in this challenge, you could use some of these books that I mentioned in the video. And then I have a pile of books that I would like to get to next year in 2018 and hopefully use them for these challenges. That was a long intro. All right, let's get started. The first challenge for Around the Year in 52 Books is to read a book with the letters A, T, and Y in the title. So, for my recommendation, I have Slasher Girls and Monster Boys. We have A, T, and Y. For my book that I would like to read this year, we have The Wasp Factory, again A, T, and Y. The next challenge is to read a book from the first 10 books added to your to-be-read list on Goodreads, or it doesn't say Goodreads, but I'm assuming they mean Goodreads, or maybe it's just whatever you have on your TBR. So I went to my first 10 books that I read and put onto Goodreads way back when I first started, and one of the 10 books that I actually read and reviewed was A Clockwork Angel, because this is something that I really wanted to get to. So if you guys want to read that one, you could. But the first 10 that I have on my to-be-read list, and you're going to be like, Missy, I am so sick. Sorry, the books are falling. You're going to say, Missy, I'm so sick of seeing this book. When are you going to read it? I don't know. As soon as I can, when I finally get to it. And that's the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. This has been on every single readathon, every month. It's been on my to-be-read list for forever. And so, yes, I would like to get to this at some point in time. All right, the third challenge, sorry if it's a little shaky, the third challenge is to read a book from the 2017 Goodreads Choice Awards. Normally it says it could be either a winner or a runner-up, but it doesn't say anything like that. So it just says Choice Awards, and there was a link that I could click on, and when I clicked on it, there were a bunch of winners. So for books that I've already read, I have Artemis by Andy Weir. No, I haven't completely finished it yet, but I do recommend reading this book. I mean, it is pretty cool. Our main character is a woman, and she lives on the moon, and she is Indian? I think she's Indian. I'm pretty sure she is Indian. Anyways, that's cool. So that was my recommended book. For the one that I would like to read this year is Sleeping Beauties by Stephen King and Owen King? Yeah, he wrote it with his son Owen, not Joe. Owen wrote this book with Stephen King. So I would like to read this book. I don't own it yet, so, you know, that's why I'm showing you a picture. The next challenge is, it says 4 books linked by 4 elements, which I think is super cool. The first element we're going to be reading is Earth, which means it has to either be in the title, on the cover, it has to be in the contents of the book, the setting, or the author has to do with Earth. So I chose something that I've already read in high school that I really enjoyed, and that is The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. Now, I own this book, but I can't find it. and I'm tired of looking for books. I mean, to find all these books that are going to be in this video, it took me an hour. So just know The Good Earth, which is perfect because it's in the title, is a great book. It's about Chinese culture and a war and concubines and a family dynamic. I would check it out. For my book that I would like to get to, I have The Hunting Ground by Cliff McNish, and ground is earth, so it goes. The fifth category is a book about or inspired by real events. So I'm kind of cheating here because I was looking it up on the internet yesterday. Again, the research for these books took me hours. But I keep finding books that are just like nonfiction, so I don't know if that's how it's supposed to go. But I chose Brain on Fire by Susanna Cahalan for the book that you should read. This is a recommendation. This was a great book. I loved it. And then for a book that I would like to read is Portrait of a Killer, Jack the Ripper, Case Closed by Patricia Cornwell. Jack the Ripper is a real killer, and so this is based on true events, but this is a nonfiction as well. I don't think she writes it in any way. Look, I didn't even know there was pictures in here. That's cool. Yeah, I don't think it's written with anything else other than, you know. Anyways, ooh, look it. I found a note by Perfume Girl. I am so excited to read this book. Thanks for this, Perfume Girl. Leela. Right? Leela is your first name. Thanks again. Okay. The next category is to read a book originally written in a language other than English. So for my recommendations, I chose Revenge, a short story collection by Yoko Ogawa. I really enjoyed this. This is 11 dark tales. They all interconnect, meaning all of these tales are based in the same town among all the different neighbors within that town, which I thought was really awesome. And I do like her creepy gothic vibe. And for my book that I would like to get to this year, I have Perfume, a story of a murderer by Patrick Suskind. And this was translated from, ooh, I can't remember. It's not Paris. Ooh. That's cool. It looks like there's a real picture taped in here. Is it French? I guess I should have looked that up. Translation of Das Parfum. Yeah, it must be French. Very cool. I'm excited to read this book. Loads of people have said that this was amazing. The next category is a gothic tale. Now, I read lots of gothic tales. I also had to look up what gothic was again, and it's a romantic, what is it? Okay, so gothic fiction is a style of writing that is characterized by elements of fear, horror, death, and gloom. With very high emotion. These emotions can include fear and suspense. I read something that it's also romantic, you know, like vampires are gothic. Anywho, I chose We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This is a must read if you haven't read this. It's a great Halloween read. It's perfectly creepy. I absolutely love this cover. The back is brilliant. Yeah, this was my first Shirley Jackson and it was phenomenal. For my gothic tale, I chose The Picture of Dorian Gray. Now, I've read this in a graphic novel form, but I haven't read it in its physical form. This is written by Oscar Wilde, and yeah, I'm excited to read it. The next category I have is Own Voices book. So I have here On the Edge of Gone by Corinne Doivas. This is a main character that is autistic, and our author is also has a form of autism. So there's that one. And then for the book that I chose, I have Lagoon here by Needy Okorafor, maybe? Own voices, as in this person is Scandinavian and it's about Scandinavia, maybe? I have no idea. But I looked this up and it said own voices for this book. So if I'm wrong, please correct me down below. The next one is a book with a body part in the title, either heart, bones, teeth, skin, blood, etc. So I have A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This is a great, it's not a horror per se, but it is spooky. It's a spooky read. I really enjoyed it. And then I have The Tooth, a very short collection of stories by Shirley Jackson. I love this little tiny book. It's so cute. Next we have an author's debut book. So this is their first book to ever be published. I recommend reading The Summer That Melted Everything by Tiffany McDaniel. This is a great contemporary magical realism book about a boy who meets the devil, and the devil stays in the town for a while, and lots of things happen, and the consequences of those things and what our main character goes through as an adult. I really liked it. And as for the book that I would like to read, I have The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I've heard great things about this book and I have never picked it up. Alright, the next one is a literary fiction. I don't own a lot of literary fiction. I do, however, have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This was absolutely phenomenal. It's got 3 points of view, but it's so well written that you don't even notice that it's changing perspective. But I mean, you're still engaged and you know who's speaking, so it's not like it's confusing at all. And it's about a time in the world where a flu-like epidemic wiped out the majority of the world, and it talks about a traveling like theater troupe / orchestra who goes from town to town trying to bring morale to its people, and what happens with all of that. It's a great story. And the book that I would like to get to this year is The Storied Life of A.J. Vickery by Gabrielle Zevin. Lots of people have spoken about this book, so I really want to pick it up as soon as possible. Ariel Bissett just said it was a nice winter read or a Christmas read because it's all about books and a bookstore, and it might be a time around Christmas time. I don't know. We'll see. I'll read it soon. The next book I have is a book set in either Africa or South America. Now, I don't have very many books set in either country. I have this one here, A Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, the classic. And this is set in the Congo area of Africa. This is a snooze fest. I really didn't like this story. It's very flowery. I could never figure out what was going on besides the fact that the main character goes to this small place in Africa and he's supposed to drive a boat up to this white man's hut and like exchange something with him, but his boat's broken when he gets there and he has to spend months trying to fix it. Anyways, so if you're not interested in reading this, then I do recommend Black Mad Wheel by Josh Mallerman. I just read it last month or the month before. I think it's solely set, not solely, I lied. It is, a lot of the book is set in Africa because that's where this mysterious sound is coming from, but I can be kind of cheating when I talk about that. I'm sure lots of books take place in like Egypt and other areas. I just don't own any of those books or have read any of those books. Although Heartless, the fourth book in the Gail Carriger books from the Parasol Protectorate, a lot of it is set in Egypt, so you can get away with that one too, I guess. It's up to you. For a book that I would like to get to this year, I have The Hatching by Ezekiel Boone. I did start this a while back during a readathon. This is set in Peru, so it is South America. It's not fully set in Peru because there's like 2 perspectives, and the one guy I think might live in New York or something. But it has some bits of it in Peru, so I'm half right. All right, the next book I have is a book with a plot centered around a secret, either a forbidden love, spies, a secret society, etc. So for this one, I have chosen, I have my notes here, Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Now I don't own this series. I'm not planning on purchasing these books because it is a pretty like epic fantasy, and I don't want to mean like epic as in like Lord of the Rings epic, but it's a fantasy that I would probably never read again. But it was very good, and it's about an angel and a chimera that are in love, and they're like, you're not supposed to be in love with the enemy kind of thing. I thought that was a very, very good story. And then we also have another book that I've read that I owned but then gave away, and that is Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, which has a secret society of book owners and readers. I can't remember why the society was created, but I really like that book too. And for the book that I would like to read, it's The Lost Symbol, which is book 3 in the, it comes after the Da Vinci Code. Robert Langdon. It's the 3rd book in the Robert Langdon series. And I do own this book, but it's at the very bottom of my bookshelf behind a bunch of books, and I don't feel like getting it out. So just know I own it, and I'd like to get to it. The next book is another elemental book. So this one is our fire book. And for our fire book, I have chosen, there was a lot of books that I could have chosen from, but I chose Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. This was an excellent nonfiction about a woman who starts her career off as a crematoriist. She cremated bodies, and then she became a, what is it called? Undertaker. Yes? Mortician. That's the word. She started her career off as a crematorist. I'm probably saying it completely wrong. And then she became a mortician. But there's fire on the cover. See the fire. Look at the fire. And I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 5-star. Bomb. As for the book that I'd like to read, again, fire's on the cover. And this is Fire Starter with a bunch of matches. I can't wait to read this. And I'm definitely reading this. So I could just check that off the list right away. Can't wait to read it. The next book I have is, or the next category is a book with a unique format, writing structure. So, a very popular book is Illuminae. This also has like fiery colors. That's pretty. But Illuminae is made up of like emails and transcripts and just like a bunch of stuff, like classified information. It is so good. And it's this huge fat book, and you'd think it would take years to read, but it's such a fast-paced, fun sci-fi book. This one is sci-fi horror, and the other one is sci-fi like adventure, like action, sci-fi action. But these are really, really good. I definitely recommend, and I love the format. For the book that I would like to get to, I would finally like to get to House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This book is written weird because it doesn't have words sometimes on the pages, or sometimes it's on the bottom, or sometimes it's like really annotated and sometimes it's not. And I think this book is going to take a century to read, but I am looking forward to the challenge. The next book is a narrative nonfiction. So I have let's pretend this never happened. Now, I don't own this book yet, but this is by Jenny Lawson. It is fabulous. It is a memoir, so it's narrative, and it's a nonfiction because it's real and it happened to her. So there's that. And then I have, for the one that I want to read for this year, is Helter Skelter, and this is by Vincent Bigliosi. This is a nonfiction true crime book about Helter Skelter, which is, oh, what's his name? Charles Manson, and the killing of that girl. She was the director's wife. She was pregnant. Charles Manson had his followers go and slaughter all the people at this party. I know about this story, but I haven't actually like delved into the story itself. I've never seen any documentaries on it, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading. The next book, or the next category, is a book you expect to make you laugh. For a book that I recommend is Bossy Pants by Tina Fey. I really enjoyed this memoir. I read it a long time ago, and I believe I listened to it on audio because she narrates it, and I really enjoyed it. And as for a book that I would like to get to, I have another Jenny Lawson book, and that's Furiously Happy. She's amazing, and I definitely need to pick up her other book because I know it's got pictures in it. She talks about the pictures in her audio, and of course she reads these books herself, so I definitely need to pick up the other book. As soon as it goes down in price, I'm going to grab it. The next one is a book with a location in the title. So I was going through all of my books trying to find something that had a location that made sense to people. I didn't want like a made up location. So I have here 172 Hours on the Moon. The Moon is a location by Johan Harstad. If you like science fiction horror, you will love this book. It was outstanding. Definitely creepy. So creepy I had to buy it because look at this cover. It's an eyeball. It's like an alien eyeball or a demonic eyeball with the moon's, you know, oh my gosh, like landscape in the eyeball. It's such a good cover. This is such a good cover. And the book that I chose to read this year is The Room by Jonas Carlson. The Room is a location. And this book's just so weird. I can't wait to read it. It's got deckled edges, and it's a very tiny little book. I love it. The next category is a book nominated for the Edgar Award or by a Grand Master author. So, for this one, I chose A Madness So Discreet by Mindy McGinnis. I absolutely loved this book. It's got a girl who's in an asylum for something that she shouldn't be there for, but her father is, you know, he's embarrassed. And back in the day, you could put girls in mental hospitals just because you wanted to get rid of them. And then she meets the doctor, and the doctor and her get together, not romantically, but like in this business sense, so that she can escape the asylum because she's not into that at all. And she helps him, and they like solve murders. It's great. I gave it 5 stars. I haven't purchased it yet, but I will in the future. And then for the book that I would like to read that has won an Edgar Award is Under the Harrow by Flynn Barry. I did receive this from a friend in a trade-away. I can't wait to read it. Thank you. Then we have a book rated 5 stars by at least one of your friends. Now you guys know I'm always going to go to Penelope for all of my friend reads because she's my weird sister. And so she chose Alice in Wonderland, or Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Of course she gave it 5 stars, so I'm going to be recommending it to you. I also gave this 5 stars, but you know. And then for me, I chose Well, yeah, for me, she put Every Heart a Doorway by Sean, oh, I forgot the name. Sean McGuire? Is it Sean McGuire? I just purchased the book, so it's coming from Book Outlet in the next couple weeks, so I will have it to read for this year. But Penelope gave it 5 stars, and that's all I need to know. I'm looking forward to reading it. Lots of people have talked about this book, and I want to know what the hype's all about. So I got it, and its sequel. Hopefully that one is just as good. So the sequel is Among the Sticks. Something Among the Sticks? Something like that. All right, the next category is a book written in first-person perspective. There are lots of books written in first-person perspective. The majority of books are either going to be written in first-person or third-person. But for my first-person pick, I chose Poison Study right here. Poison Study. Is by V.E. Schneider. V.E.? No. Not V.E. Schneider. Schneider. Schneider's the last name. Can't remember the first name. But of course here's a picture of it. This is an amazing book. It's got a great love story. I don't, obviously I don't go straight for romance stories, but there's a romance in this book that I really, really enjoyed. And so, yeah, totally read it because it's good. And then for my pick, I chose Grave Mercy because I own it. I haven't read it yet. And I think I spoke to someone who said that they are willing to buddy read this book with me. So if you were the one who said you'd buddy read Grave Mercy with me, let me know down below. I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere. Not really, but I briefly glanced through my bookcases and I couldn't find it right away. So I said, heck with that, and here's a picture. But I have the majority of the books, so you guys can't, be mad at me for that. Or maybe you can. Whatever. All right. The next book I have is a book you have high expectations for. Or a book you have high expectations or hope for. That is category 22. Now I chose this book here, Alice in Zombieland, and this is by Gina Showalter. I picked this book up, one, because it says it had zombies in it, so it's a retelling of Alice in Wonderland. It barely has any Alice. It has hints of Alice, but not that much Alice. And it has zombies, but not that much zombies. And the zombies are really cool in the first book. I recommend definitely reading Alice in Zombieland, but none of the other books. But the first one is great. Don't read the other ones. Or skip 2 and go straight to 3. I don't know. The covers are amazing, though. They're great. All right, and for my side, I chose, The Trench. This is what I chose for a book you have high expectations for, because I absolutely loved Meg so much. I'm expecting this book to be phenomenal. Now, is Meg a 5-star read? Yes, but is it like literary fiction that people are going to be talking about for years to come? No. But is it fun? Absolutely. So this is book 2 of the series. I cannot wait to read it. Erica, if you're watching, thank you so much for getting me hooked on the first book. I cannot wait to read the rest of the books. So there's Trench. The next category is to read a medical or legal thriller. Now, I'm not going to show you all the books. I'm just going to show you the first book. But this is Post-Mortem, book 1 in the Scarpetta series by Patricia Cornwell. Now, this was my very first medical thriller I ever read. She has about 20-something books in this series. I think I've read up to book 13 maybe. Fantastic. I absolutely love anything Kay Scarpetta. But I don't know if I want to continue reading because there are so many books in the series. But I definitely recommend reading the first book and going from there as long as you can, because it's fun. The characters grow throughout the books. I mean, you know, years pass. At the beginning of the series, our main character, the medical examiner's niece, she talks about her all the time, and she's like small. And then when you get to like book 13, she's in college. So that's a lot of fun to read. Oh, for my side, I didn't even talk about the one I want to read. I don't own it yet, and I think I'm just going to borrow it from the library. But it is called The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. Again, Erica, you like Michael Crichton. Have you read this book? Should I pick it up? If you guys know another medical thriller, let me know down below. Maybe I'll pick that one up instead. But I am looking forward to this one. It sounds really, really good. Then we have a book with a map. Now, if you guys watched my aesthetically pleasing book tag, you know that there's a bunch of books on my shelves, or at least a handful, that have great maps. One of the ones that I talked about is the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Their map is fantastic. Let me find it. Oops, I passed it. Here we go. It is so pretty. I love it, love it, love it. So this is one I recommend. As for a book that I would like to read that has a great map is, well, I chose The Princess Bride because I looked it up online, books with great maps, and one of them said The Princess Bride had a great map and it had all of the different places that she went to. So I figured, oh man, this is an illustrated edition. It would have the map in it, and it doesn't have the map. So, I would like to read this book anyway. Otherwise, I would like to get to the second book in the Magician's trilogy, The Magician King. That one has a map of Fillory in it. So, if I don't get to this one, I'll get to that one. Again, this is a tentative TBR, and so I'm just going to go with what I can. The next category is a book with an antagonist or villain's point of view. So for my recommended read, I have Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This, of course, is written with Humbert as our main character. He is the man who falls in love with a 12-year-old girl, so he is a pedophile. I always feel awful when I say that this is a 5-star read and it's brilliantly written, because people will look at me funny and judge me that I'm okay with what happens in this book, and I'm totally not. But it's still amazingly written, and I mean, it's a Shakespearean romance, in my opinion. That's what it is. It's a love that he can't have. And yeah, I really liked it. For my book that I want to read, it's The Collector here by John Fowles. I don't own this book. I would like to borrow it from the library, but it is written with the killer slash he's a kidnapper. It's his point of view. Or you could read You by Caroline Kepnes. That was a good book. I gave it away though, but I did own it, and it was a very good book. But I'd like to get The Collector, or at least borrow it from the library, because you gotta try something new. So there you go. All right, now I have a book with text only on the cover. I couldn't find the book I wanted, and it was Ready Player One, but I don't own the book with just the words on the cover. So instead I picked Gemina, and I'm kind of cheating a little bit because you have to take the dust jacket off first, and of course the dust underneath the dust jacket is just words. So I like that. But you could also choose lots of books that just have words on it. I have the Strand, which is a adult vampire book that I want to read. I haven't read it yet, but I chose Dark Matter for the book that I'm going to be reading this year, and it's just have words on it. This is a different edition. There's one that has just Dark Matter over and over and over and over again. on the cover. That one's really cool too. I bought this one from the book depository because I thought it was going to have red foredges, because I've seen lots of people with that, but I didn't get that one, which is a bummer. Oh well. Our next category is a book about surviving a hardship, either war, famine, major disasters, a serious illness, etc. So for my recommended pick, I have Challenger Deep here, and you know, Challenger, it is a challenge, and it's talking about the Mariana Trench. But this is by Neil Shusterman. The hardship is our main character finds out that he is schizophrenic, and so he has to go to a mental hospital to take care of it. This was absolutely fabulous. I've been saying that a lot lately, but I really, really enjoyed this story. And then for my pick is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. The women are basically only there to procreate, to make babies. I can't remember why else this is a hardship book, but I think that's the women are mainly just baby makers, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, this is a classic and I want to read it soon so that way I can watch the TV show. The next category is another Element book. This time it is water. So I chose for you guys, Eat the Sky, Drink the Ocean. This is a collection of short stories by Australian and Indian authors. I loved a lot of these stories. Some of them were really weird. I didn't really like some of them. They were just too out there for me. Like, I mean, this one was okay. It kind of made me sad because she like really loves her brother who is a cyborg, which was cute. But yeah, I definitely recommend this book, not only because the cover is gorgeous, but it's a short story collection, so there is going to be a story for somebody in here, and it's got diverse characters. There's the Australian and Indian authors if you're looking for a diverse book. So I definitely recommend. For my pick, I have Primal Waters. It's got water on the cover, like in the title, and it's got a giant shark. This is book 3 in the Meg series. I'd like to finish up this series if possible in 2018. It is so fun. So fun. Then we have a book with a clue weapon on the cover or in the title. So it has to have a lead pipe, a revolver, a rope, a candlestick, a dagger, or a wrench. This one was actually pretty hard for me. I looked through all the books I own. I do have Stalking Jack the Ripper here by Carrie Maniscalco. She's holding a dagger on the cover. I recommend if you like Jack the Ripper stories. This was a great little mystery YA about Jack the Ripper. And then for my book that I would like to read, I had Revolver by Marcus Sedgwick, but I couldn't find the book. It has revolver in the name, and I think the person on the cover is holding a gun. I could be wrong, but since I couldn't find it, I chose Winterspell, which is a book that I also want to read. And Kristen Stewart here, I always call her Kristen Stewart. She totally looks like her to me. She's holding a dagger. This is supposed to be a dark retelling of the Nutcracker, so we'll see. I love it. It's nice and shiny. It's got a black bird on the cover. It's very wintry. I will not be reading it this winter, but maybe soon, like before winter is over. We'll see. It's by Claire Legrand, and I really like that author, so there you go. The next category is a short book. A book I recommend is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I had to read this in high school, hated it, read it as an adult, loved it. Just different perspectives now that I'm an adult. It makes so much sense. When I was little, I didn't understand what the point of this book was. As an adult, this book infuriated me, but in a good way. I highly recommend. For a book for me to read, I chose The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. This is under 200 pages, so I consider it to be short. And yeah, it's translated, so it could work for many categories. There you go. Next we have a book set in a country you'd like to visit, but you have never been before. So I would like to visit Ireland because it's gorgeous. I mean, it's, from what I know, a lot of it is green, and I like that. So I recommend In the Woods by Tana French. This is a Dublin Squad murder series. Is that what it's called? The Dublin Squad? Yeah. It's a murder mystery set in Dublin, Ireland, and you go from each detective in the unit. This one is a different detective than the sequel, which I really like that it has a different detective's point of view in each book. But yeah, this is the first one, and I highly recommend. It has won an Edgar Award, so this also fits a different category. Fun times. And then for me, for this year, I would like to get to Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy. This is, again, another detective story set in Ireland, but our detective's a skeleton, so that's fun. Then we have an alternate history book. So the first, I don't know if this is true or not, but when I looked it up on Goodreads, Solace was there, and I guess it does have a alternate history because it talks about England like in the past, but it had dirigibles. I'm always saying that word wrong. You know, the floating boat things, and it had lots of steampunk elements to the story, and there is a queen, but there's also, it's urban fantasy. Anyways, it's great. And then for mine, I chose, oh, I don't have it yet. For mine, I chose The Air Affair by Jasper Fforde. This was also one that I wanted for the cool map thing, because in this series, the map is all the different genres of books. And I like books about books, so I'm looking forward to reading this book. I have to borrow it from the library. But the map book is like the 6th book in the series. And I have to start with the first one because that's what you're supposed to do. So this is the book I want to read. Next we have a book connected, title, cover, or content to a word born in the same year as you. So my husband had to explain what this meant to me, and that is a word that originated in the year that you were born, and it has to either be in the title, on the cover, or in the contents of the book. Does that make sense? I'll show you my examples. So for this one I have, okay, so Sleazeball and Sleazebag came out in 1981. That's when I was born. And so I chose Rules of Attraction by Bret Easton Ellis. This is a book about college students. They are sleazebags in this book. I couldn't imagine it not being in this book because it's very dialogue heavy. It has to be in here. If not, I can see Bret Easton Ellis saying that word that, you know, came to being in 1981. I would read this book. There's a movie. The movie's not as good. The book's weird. If you like, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, though, you'll love this book. And then as for my pick, I chose Universal Harvester by John Darnell because it says, I'm pretty sure the word camcorder is going to be in this book, and camcorder was made in 1981. So it has to, because this is a VHS horror, and VHS used to go in camcorders, so it has to be in here. I'm crossing my fingers that I'm not wrong. Although, regardless, this is going to be an amazing book. Next, we have a suggestion from the ATY, which is around the year 2018 polls that didn't win but was polarizing or a close call. So these are just picks that were supposed to be a part of the 2018 list, but for whatever reason it didn't make it. So I have a bunch here. I have a book that takes place over the course of one day. Now, I couldn't find a book that I've read that only took place in one day. I did want to kind of read Sick by, what's his name? Oh, I can't think of his name. Tom Levin. I do own the book, but again, I couldn't find it. So that one takes place in one day, I believe, but I don't have a recommendation for it. The next book is a book by an author who uses just titles. So I have A.G. Howard. I recommend all of her books. There's also books that she's written that I have not read yet, like Rose Blood and her new adult book. I have it, but I never pulled it out because I decided instead of those two, I would choose a book set during the winter or in a snowy environment. So for that one, I recommend you guys read The Shining because the Overlook Hotel is being watched by the Torrance family because the hotel is closed for the winter. It's very stormy. If you don't reset the fire heater, the boiler downstairs, the whole hotel could explode and you need it to warm up the place, otherwise they'll freeze to death. Great horror. This scared the crap out of me. I absolutely loved it. And then for a book that I would like to read for myself, I've had this on, I think it was my 2016 around the year in 52 books, but I have Terror here by Dan Simmons, and as you can see there's a bunch of survivors there, and there's snowy mountains, and this is all snow. I can't remember why they're stranded, but they are, and it's called The Terror, so I'm assuming this is going to be scary, or at least I hope it's going to be scary. It is a chunky book though. All of Dan Simmons' books are chunky. So we'll see. Oh, it says here the 1845 Franklin Expedition. So this is a historical fiction. The next category is a book featuring a murder. That most of my books feature murders. So I was having a hard time figuring out which one I recommend for you guys to read. But ultimately, Bird Box by Josh Malerman is perfect because if you look out your window, you will murder everybody, including yourself. There's just no way around it. There will be murder if you look outside. So this is a perfect book. If you haven't read it and you don't bite your nails, you will start while you read the book and they will be gone. So hopefully you didn't just get a manicure. Great book. Absolutely loved it. 100 stars. The book that I'm currently going to be reading is I Hunt Killers by Barry Lyga. Now, I've talked about this several times. I'm halfway through this book. I'm really enjoying it. So I need to continue. And of course, it's about murder because that's what our main character is doing. He's trying to solve a murder. A book published in the last 3 years by an author you haven't read before. So either it has to be published in 2016, 2017, or 2018. Now, a book that I chose for you guys is The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchinson. This book came out in 2016. Nobody really talks about this author, so I was thinking maybe you guys haven't picked her up yet. I highly recommend. This is a great first book in a trilogy. I believe the consecutive books are more of companion novels than anything because it's not around the same characters. But this is a great mystery thriller. Absolutely loved it. Totally creepy. You kind of feel sorry for the villain, which doesn't happen very often. I did feel for him for some reason, which was kind of gross. But yeah, it was good. And for me, I chose Enchantment of Ravens. I can't remember who the author is of this book. And of course, I didn't write it down. This came out this year in 2017. It's absolutely gorgeous. I need to have this book in my life soon. Oh my gosh. I have it. I have it in a library edition on my floor. But I can't get there because I've been stacking the books up on the side of me and now I'm trapped. I feel like Rapunzel right now. Okay, on to the next category. Definitely want to read this book though. Yes, I just talked about The Enchantment of Ravens, but I also have After the Woods by Kim Savage. This also came out in 2016 and it's close, so I could pick it up off the floor, and I would like to read this one too. So there you go. Alright, the next category is, where am I? A Woman's Prize for Fiction winner or nominee. Now, I was trying to look up women's books that got awards. I don't own any, and I couldn't find one that sounded interesting to me, so I left this blank, and I'm using a wild card for this one. There is such thing as a wild card where you get to choose a category that was from the past around the year in 52 books, so I will just randomly select a category later, not now because I don't know what I'm in the mood for. But yeah, if you're interested, again, that category is a Women's Prize for Fiction winner or nominee. I was assuming this was all going to be like literary fiction. If a woman wrote a horror or thriller book and was awarded or was a nominee for something, let me know down below because I'll totally look that up. I'm not going to read literary fiction, but I will read horror and thriller. So, you know, if you already know, let me know. Next we have a science book or a science fiction book. And if you guys know me, you should know what book I am recommending to you. And if not, it's The Martian by Andy Weir. This book is fantastic. I recommend reading this book and then immediately listening to it on audio because the narrator is genius and is Mark Watney. The narrator is Mark Watney, and then I watched the movie and I saw Matt Damon, and I didn't see Mark Watney and Matt Damon, although he did okay. This book is way better than the movie. If you didn't like the movie, pick up the book. It's so funny. I wasn't expecting it to be so funny, and it was hilarious. So for my science fiction read that I would like to get to this year is Old Man's War by John Scalzi. I've read a load of John Scalzi recently, and I definitely want to read this. This is about an army in the future, but you can only join this army if you're old. So I think it's like 60 and above. I don't know why you have to be old to join, but it sounds great. I can't wait to read it. There are, I think, 6 books so far, maybe. I could be wrong. Maybe there's 5. But I do own the first one, so I want to pick it up soon. If you've read it, let me know what you thought. Next, we have a book with a form of punctuation in the title. This is another category I could not, for the life of me, come up with a book for. To either recommend to you or for me to read this year. So I'm going to have to keep digging around. When I think of punctuation, I think of periods or maybe a question mark or an exclamation point. I found like parentheses on a book, and I found commas or, you know, apostrophes, but that's not really an exclamation point or a period, so it's not really punctuation. If you know one, let me know down below, because I would like to read it. And I have a book from Amazon's 100 books you need to read in a lifetime list. There was a link for it, so I clicked on the link. And for this category, which is number 40, I chose, for you guys, Pride and Prejudice. This is another book that could have gone for just title, like just the title on the cover. It's just words. This is the first Jane Austen book I've ever read. It's amazing. I think Sense and Sensibility is equally as good. I haven't read the other Jane Austen books yet, but I highly recommend this one. It's uncharacteristically funny. I wasn't expecting it to be funny because it's like a romance, but Elizabeth, I I wanted to call her Elizabeth Swan. That's not her name. Lizzie and Mr. Darcy are very funny characters, and so I highly recommend. If you haven't picked it up, please do. It's not that hard to read. The language is very easy to read. It's so fun. And then for my book, I chose, oh, here, 1984 by George Orwell. Again, a book that I own, but this one is at the bottom of all of my classics, and I didn't want to take all the classics down to get this. So here is a nicer cover, a cover that I would like to own that I don't, because the one I have is really ugly. But yeah, 1984. I want to read this. It's supposed to be a good book. The next category is to read a book by an author with the same first and last initials as you. This one was very, very difficult for me to find. So hard, I couldn't find you one to recommend. I couldn't recommend a book to you guys. So we're going to skip that, and we're going to go to the books that I would like to read. There's either Megan Crew, which is Earth and Sky, which I'm iffy on. I don't know if I want to read that YA anymore. And then I also have Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. Again, Erica recommends this book. I needed to buy this because I loved Meg so much. I figured Meg is a Jurassic shark, and this is Jurassic, you know, reptiles. I needed to read this, so I can't wait. I liked the movie, so this has to be even better because it's the book, right? Right. Next is a book that takes place on, in, or under water. Perfect book for that category is A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman. This is a novella. It's very short, very, very weird. But if you haven't read it, I would pick it up. As a Josh Malerman fan, even though I didn't find this to be super amazing, and I didn't find Black Mad Wheel to be super amazing, I do like Josh Malerman's writing, so I will continue reading his books, but I definitely recommend reading this just because it's short, just for the sake of it. It is weird, and you might like it. For me, for my book that I'd like to get to this year, I have 20,000. Oh. Yep, there goes the books that I want to share with you guys. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. This is like a kid's book, right? This isn't middle grade, but if you guys have watched the movie The Neverending Story, Bastian talks about how he's read this book, and he's like 10. So I should probably read it. And this cover, isn't it gorgeous? Yes, I had to buy it because of this cover. There's lots of different versions of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but this one's the best cover I found. The next book I have, or the next category I have, is a book with a title that is a whole sentence. Now, I haven't talked about, I sort of talked about this book before, but I don't think I added it to my list yet. Let me double check. I don't want to sound stupid. Yes, I did. Number 16. A narrative nonfiction. So I'm just going to tell you guys to read it again. And that's Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson. Because that is a book that is it's a long title. It's a sentence. And I recommend it. Twice now. I don't have anything else to say, to add for a recommendation. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I guess, would be a sentence. I highly recommend that book. And yeah, I recommend that one. I'll pull it down so you guys can see it. One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Pick this book up. It's genius. Classic. I absolutely loved it. And for my choice, I picked The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making, because that is not only a sentence, it's kind of a run-on sentence. It's crazy. But this is by Catherine M. Valenti. I started this. My son, oh no I didn't. I thought he might have pulled out the tab. I ended on page 90. I started this like 3 years ago. It is so whimsical, like kind of hard to read because it is so weird. It's weirder than Alice in Wonderland, and that's already weird. But I do want to finish this book and the entire series. My son has read all the books in the series and absolutely loved it, and we own all the books, so I have no excuses. So there's that one. The next category is a ghost story. Not only am I cheating here because it says a ghost story on the cover, but I really enjoyed this book, and look how tiny and cute it is. This is The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. If you've seen the movie with Daniel Radcliffe, this is not like that. This is better, way better. The movie ruined the story, and I absolutely hate that. Like, you know, I don't want to get on a soapbox again, but if you're a director, don't change the ending of a story. Just leave it, because the ending makes the book. You know what I mean? And if you say I'm going to make a movie adaptation of a story and then change the ending completely, it's no longer the same story. Now it's stupid. And they made it stupid. But this is a great ghost story. There's a haunted house, a woman that lives, or a dead woman that is haunting this house. And I really enjoyed it. And this, again, this is a cute cover. For my pick for the year, I have Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. Again, gorgeous cover. This is a UK cover by Galans. I think I'm saying it right. Galans. By My Stepfather's Ghost, said the email. So Jude did. I don't know what this is about, besides that it's a ghost story, and I can't wait to read it. It sounds awesome. We are almost done. Almost done. Okay, we have number 45, a book that intimidates or scares you. Okay, I have 2 books to recommend. We have The Diviners here by Libba Bray. This is a scary ghost story set in the 20s. It has an occult in it. It also has a murderous ghost killer, which is really fun. And then, of course, we have Stephen King's It, because this is 1,300 pages long. It's a monster, literally. And yeah, this was totally intimidating. And I read this entire book on my Kindle, which is even crazier, because with a Kindle, you don't even know what page you're on. So both of these books I highly recommend. They were definitely intimidating. For the book that I chose for myself, I have Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I started this, and what I've read so far, which is barely anything, I'm absolutely loving. So I don't know why I haven't finished it. Again, Erica is going to kill me because I haven't picked it up since she read it. But this is a great story, and I don't know what I'm waiting for. I just need to read it. But it's so fat. And I keep putting it down because it's so fat. I also do not own the books, but Game of Thrones is very intimidating. I love the TV show. I'm sure the books are way better, but the length of these books scares me. So I haven't picked them up yet. 46, the last elemental book, and this one is for air. Now I chose, where is it? I chose Magonia here. What is the Henley? I can't remember the author's name right now. It's something like that, though. This is about a girl, and it's perfect because our element is air. This is about a girl who has a hard time breathing. She has some kind of lung condition. She was born with it, and she's like, she thinks that she's going to die because it's worse than asthma, and there's nothing that the doctors can do for her, so there's no cure. And it's also about sky people that live in the air, you know, they're birds, and I think it was fantastic. It's a contemporary at the beginning of the book and a fantasy at the end, and a lot of people got thrown off by that, but it's definitely a fun read, and I continuously want to pick up the second book, which is Aria, or something like that. I definitely want to read it. I haven't yet though, but it's a good air book. I highly recommend. There's the picture. It's gorgeous. I love feathers. Hi, it's a new day. You may have seen me last night, and then mid-sentence my memory card filled up, and then I couldn't film the video anymore, and it was already like 11, so I decided to call it quits for the night and continue on this next day. So we were hopefully on 46. Yes, we were on 46. 46 was 4 books linked by the 4th element. So we were talking about the last elemental book for the around the year in 52 books, and that last element was air. Now I was talking about how I have 2 books, and I'll probably cut this out when I go and edit this video because I don't know where I left off. But I picked 2 books. I have Chris Hadfield's An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. Now, Earth is in the title, so I could have used this for the Earth one. Also, though, he's in air, right? He's floating in air. There's no air in space. So this might not work. But I do want to read this book. And then I also have Servants of the Storm by Delilah S. Dawson. Is it S? Yeah, it's S. Storms are made from air. Air currents make storms. She's leaning, so air is wind, and wind is pushing her sideways. Yeah, I think this is a demon book. Is it? I'm not sure. I'm excited to read it, though. So I have 2 books here. One that probably isn't going to work for me, but I do want to read it. And this one that's probably going to work, and I want to read it. So there. I already talked about my recommended book. I think. I wouldn't have started with the other ones. I'm pretty sure I talked about the recommended one. And that book was Magonia. I did talk about it. By the way, I've already filmed and uploaded my Book Off book haul, but I did see Magonia at Book Off today, and I was tempted to buy it. But it was $5.50, and I only wanted to buy one $5.50 book, which was Roseblood. So I'll probably end up buying that book along with the sequel on Book Outlet because they're both on Book Outlet. We'll see. All right, next topic. This is such a long video already. The next topic is a book where the main character or author is of a different ethnic origin, religion, or sexual identity than your own. This one was kind of hard for me. I have 2 choices. I have Cinder here. She is half Chinese, half robot. I'm neither. I'm Filipino, but that's not Chinese. So, yeah, and then I don't even know if she has a religion. I'm not really religious myself. I'm more spiritual. Some people say that's a cop-out, though I grew up Christian, so I have those values. Yes. So that was my recommended book for someone that is different than me. Where's the book that I chose? Did I not choose one? I didn't choose one. That wasn't even the book I wanted. Oh, that's right, because I already used Artemis, so I had to use something else. Got it. Okay, so if you don't want to use Cinder, you could also use Artemis because she's Indian. And she has a different religion, well, than me, although I'm already reading it, so that doesn't count. Okay, so for that, I don't have one to read right now. I don't know about the characters before I start reading the book, so I will just fill this blank in once I've read a book that has a character that is a different ethnicity, religion, and so forth. Because I don't know. I don't buy books strictly for that reason. So I'm always, you know, it's just like a surprise. Okay, 48. We are fine. Oh, we're almost done. 48 is a book related to one of the 7 deadly sins. So there's pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Now, Sweet Evil by Wendy Higgins is a YA urban fantasy series strictly on that. So all of the characters in the book are family members of a certain 7 deadly sins. So our main character is a gambler, but I don't think it's greed. I don't remember what hers is. Let me know down below if you've read that series. I've only read book 1 and 2. I never finished the series because during reading book 2, I got in a horrific car accident and my car was totaled. So that book gives me bad memories now, even though I really enjoyed it and I was loving it. The guy who T-boned me in the intersection, who ran the red light, made me really scared, and so I've had to drive a different way to work every day instead because I never want that to happen again. I hate car accidents, but the book that I want to share with you guys instead is Needful Things by Stephen King, because this is all about greed. It's called Needful Things. People go into this antique shop, they need something, and because of their need, they are then cursed. So I love this. It's nice and fat if you like nice fat books. I definitely want to pick this up. I think I'm going to do rereads of Stephen King in 2019. Maybe. We'll see. For my book that I would like to read, I have A Christmas Carol and Other Holiday Treasures by Charles Dickinson. It's not Dickinson. Emily Dickinson is a poet. Charles Dickens is a writer. Yes, I think I got this from Will. Will, did you send this to me? I think you did. Oh, look at the end pages. I love the story A Christmas Carol. I've seen many adaptations of it, from Scrooge McDuck to, oh, what's her name? I was going to say Whitney Houston. That's not it. What's her name? She used to be a model. Then she became a singer. Vanessa Williams. She was the Scrooge, right? Saw that so long ago. So I'm looking forward to actually reading the original story. That's going to be fun. It would make sense to read this during Christmas time, but that would be another book that I'd have to bring with me. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. 49. You see this? All these notes? I have to flip the page because I have too many notes. All right, 49. A book from one of the Goodreads Best Books of the Month lists. I also had to use a link to get to these, and I have numerous ones to share with you guys. So for one that I recommend, I of course recommend The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I love this book. This one was on the list in September of 2011. This book is slightly old, but definitely worth the read. As for what I would like to read, I had Within These Walls, which came out April 2015. It's somewhere on my horror shelves, and I couldn't find it yesterday. So instead, I picked up Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and this one was on the list January of 2017. But there's also Supernatural Enhancements by Edgar Cantero. I want to read this one too, and this one came out August 2014. So I have 3 options for this slot in the category list of Around the Year and 52 books. We're almost done. I keep saying that, but I'm serious this time. It's 52 books, and we are finally into the 50s. Number 50 is a book with a warm atmosphere, either through family, friendship, love, or the actual season of summer. I chose A Night of Cake and Puppets by Laini Taylor. The love story between Susanna and Mick is unbearably warm. It is so toasty cute that you might overheat. It's not sexy, okay? Not hot like James McAvoy. Yeah, he's hot. No, but this is very, very cute. Like s'mores, toasted marshmallows. I love this book so much. Please read it. If you don't like romance, that's okay. It's so cute it won't matter. Did I mention how much this book is amazing? Like the illustrations, the covers. If you've seen my aesthetically pleasing book tag, you will know the awesomeness of this book. I highly recommend. For me, what I would like to get to is The Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. Again, another extremely fat book by Dan Simmons. I don't think he writes skinny books. Oh, that's the laundry. I don't even know what this is about, besides that summer is in the title. So yeah, I'm cheating a bit because it says summer, and I'd like to read it. All right, we are now on to 51, an award-winning short story or short story collection. A short story collection. I have here Greener Pastures, which was the finalist for the Shirley Jackson Award in 2016. Hurrah to Michael Wehunt. This was a really, really good collection of short stories. I just finished reading this last month. Highly enjoyed. I think there's like 11 stories, and I liked 6 out of the 11. And I think those are good odds. I would highly recommend, I've already said that, but please pick this one up. As for the one that I would like to read in 2018, I have Bizarre Bad Dreams by Stephen King. He won. He was the winner, not a finalist, but a winner of the Shirley Jackson Award in 2015. I don't own this book yet. It is on my book depository wish list because I like that cover banner. So I will be getting it at some point in 2018, and hopefully I will read it, even though it's not part of my Stephen King read-along. Maybe I can read it like one story a week or something. And the very, very last book of, or very last category of this extremely long video is a book published in 2018. Now, I only received one ARC this year, which was Calculus of Change, that was coming out in 2018. I didn't read it, so I don't have anything to recommend to you guys. The book that I do want to read in 2018, my high priority, I mean, I do have a small list that I started earlier this month, but I want to get more books towards the end of the month. But the one I definitely know I want to read is Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. That is the third book in the Illuminae trilogy. I think it's the third and final book. This adventure is fascinating. I am so digging what's going on, and I hope the corporation just implodes and then gets vacuum sucked out into the universe, because that would be great. So yeah. Let me know down below if you guys are planning on participating in this Goodreads challenge. I will leave the link down below if you'd like to participate. I think it starts on January 1st, where you can actually make a Goodreads shelf so that way you can continue to, you know, check mark the box so that way you know you've read a certain book. Also, you get a lot of information on like the links to certain things, what kinds of books they recommend. These were just the recommendations from me that I've read that I thought you guys might enjoy if you like my taste in books. Yeah, I'm hoping that this year I will be better at the challenge, because this is the only challenge for myself in 2018. I'm not planning on doing any other challenges. This is it. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for watching this extremely long video. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. I will see you again next year in 2018. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.